Welcome, friend. You found your way here, and that's already enough. There's nothing you need to do right now except breathe and listen. As you settle deeper into wherever you are lying or sitting, let your body grow a little heavier with each exhale. Feel the weight of the day gently leaving your shoulders, your arms, your hands. Tonight we are going on a long, slow journey together. We are traveling to a place that only ever existed inside a video game, yet somehow feels more real and more vivid than many places we've actually visited. A city of neon lights and warm ocean breezes. A city where the year is always 1986, and the sun seems to shine with a special golden quality that makes everything look like a memory you wish you had. This place is called Vice City. Close your eyes if that feels good. Picture yourself standing on a wide, palm-lined boulevard right beside the water. The air is warm and carries the faint scent of salt and flowers. In the distance, you can hear the low, powerful sound of a sports car engine as it glides past. Its paint shines like candy under the streetlights. Palm trees sway slowly overhead. Somewhere nearby, a radio is playing softly through an open window. A smooth 80s melody that makes the whole scene feel like a dream you never want to wake up from. This is the world Rockstar Games created for us. It was never meant to be a perfect copy of real Miami. It was meant to be the most beautiful, most exciting, most atmospheric version of that feeling. The feeling of 1980s Florida excess, glamour, danger, and freedom all mixed together. Take another slow breath in and let it out. We have a full hour together. There is no rush. We will explore how this incredible world was made, the people who live inside it, the music that fills its streets, the secrets hidden in its corners, and why, more than 20 years later, so many people still return to Vice City when they want to feel something special. All you have to do is stay comfortable and let the words and the atmosphere carry you. If your mind wanders, that's perfectly fine. Just come back whenever you're ready. Vice City will still be here, glowing softly, waiting for you. It might surprise you to learn that this rich, detailed, living city was brought into existence in an incredibly short amount of time. What eventually became Grand Theft Auto. Vice City started as a much smaller idea, an expansion pack for the groundbreaking Grand Theft Auto 3. The team at Rockstar North had just finished that revolutionary game and were already thinking about what could come next. Instead of making a small add-on, they realized they had something much bigger in their hands. They decided to turn the concept into a complete, standalone game set in an entirely new location. Full production began in early 2002. By May of that same year, they were showing it at E3. By the end of October, it was on store shelves. That is roughly 9 months of intense, focused work from a core team of about 50 people. They traveled to Miami to take thousands of reference photographs. They studied the architecture, the way light hits the water, the colors of the buildings at sunset, the style of the cars, the clothes people wore, the overall feeling of the city. They wanted Vice City to feel like a real place you could get lost in, not just a video game level. The engine they used was a heavily modified version of the one from GTA 3, but they added so many new features, it almost felt like a new technology. Motorcycles, first-person aiming for certain weapons, a completely new property buying and empire building system, hours and hours of new dialogue, over 8,000 lines in total, more than 90 minutes of cinematic cutscene, and 9 full hours of licensed music spread across multiple radio stations. It was the most expensive game Rockstar North had made up to that point. The development budget was around $5 million, with even more spent on marketing. But the team believed in what they were creating. They believed that players wanted more than just missions. They wanted to feel like they were living inside a stylish, dangerous, beautiful 1980s crime movie. And they were right. Imagine the pressure of trying to capture an entire era in just 9 months. The late nights, the creative breakthroughs, the moments when a single song or a single voice line suddenly made an entire district of the city come alive. All of that effort is still visible every time someone boots up the game today. Let that sink in for a moment. A world this detailed, this full of personality and secrets and music, built in less time than it takes many modern games to finish just their planning phase. That dedication is part of what makes Vice City feel so special. Let's take our time and walk through the city together, one area at a time. There's no need to rush. We can linger wherever something feels interesting. We'll start on the southern island, the one most people think of first when they picture Vice City. This is the beach side. Ocean Beach stretches along the water with its wide sidewalks, Art Deco hotels, and rows of palm trees. The buildings here are painted in soft pinks, blues, and yellows that catch the sunlight beautifully during the day and glow under neon at night. You can almost feel the warmth coming off the pavement. Further along the coast, you'll find Washington Beach and then Vice Point, quieter, more residential in places, with marinas full of boats and luxury apartments overlooking the water. Starfish Island sits just offshore, connected by a short bridge. This is where the wealthiest residents live. Their mansions are large and private, surrounded by high walls and lush gardens. One of these mansions in particular carries a very deliberate design, echo of the famous movie house, the kind of place where powerful people make powerful decisions. Now imagine crossing one of the long bridges to the northern mainland. The atmosphere changes. Downtown rises up with tall glass skyscrapers that reflect the sky. The streets are busier here. There are shops, offices, and the famous North Point Mall, a sprawling indoor shopping center that feels like a perfect slice of 1980s American mall culture, complete with all the little details you remember from that time. To the west of downtown, you'll find Little Haiti and Little Havana. These neighborhoods have their own strong identities, with colorful buildings, street markets, and a vibrant energy that makes them feel alive even when you're just driving through. The game captured the cultural mix of real 1980s Miami with care and respect for the atmosphere, even while telling its own fictional stories. Further out, you'll find the airport, Escobar International, and industrial areas, swamps, and quieter roads that eventually lead back toward the ocean. The entire map is connected by a network of roads, bridges, and waterways that make exploration feel natural and rewarding. What makes this geography special is not just the size, but the way each area has its own mood and its own soundtrack. Drive from the sunny beaches into downtown as the sun sets, and you can feel the city changing around you. The lighting shifts. The radio might change stations automatically. The people on the sidewalks look different. It all works together to create the illusion of a real, breathing place. Take a slow breath and picture yourself driving slowly along the beachfront at dusk. The windows are down. The ocean is on your left, dark blue now. The buildings on your right are lighting up one by one. A perfect song is playing on the radio. You don't have anywhere you need to be. You're just here. At the heart of Vice City is one man's story. His name is Tommy Vercetti. He arrives in the city after spending 15 years in prison. He took the fall for something that happened years earlier, protecting the people he was loyal to. Now he's been sent to Vice City by his old boss to handle a major business deal. It's supposed to be straightforward. It is anything but. What happens next sets off a chain of events that will change everything. Tommy finds himself betrayed, left with almost nothing, and forced to start from the bottom in a city full of people who don't know him and don't care about his past. What makes Tommy compelling is how he responds. He doesn't give up. He uses his intelligence, his toughness, and his growing network of contacts to build something of his own. He takes over businesses, he makes alliances, he removes obstacles. Slowly, carefully, he turns a bad situation into an empire. The game lets you feel that rise. When you buy your first property and start earning money passively, there's a real sense of satisfaction. When you finally take control of a certain luxurious mansion on Starfish Island, it feels like a genuine achievement. Tommy's story is one of resilience, ambition, and the complicated price of power. Ray Liotta's voice performance brings incredible weight to every scene. You can hear the years of frustration, the sharp mind, and the moments of unexpected vulnerability. Tommy isn't a silent protagonist. He talks back. He has opinions. He reacts to the world around him. That makes the entire experience feel more personal. As you listen to this, imagine Tommy standing on the balcony of his mansion late at night, looking out over the city he now controls. The lights are twinkling below. The ocean is a dark presence in the distance. He's come a very long way from that prison cell. And yet there's still that same quiet intensity in his eyes. This is the fantasy the game offers. Not just chaos, but the story of someone who refused to stay down and built something lasting in a city that tries to chew people up and spit them out. One of the things that made Vice City feel so special in 2002 was the cast. Video games rarely featured this level of star power at the time. Hearing instantly recognizable actors delivering fully performed dialogue changed what people expected from interactive storytelling. Ray Liotta as Tommy Vercetti brought real movie star presence. William Fichtner played Ken Rosenberg, the anxious, fast-talking lawyer whose paranoia and rapid-fire lines are both funny and strangely touching. Tom Sizemore gave Sonny Corelli a dangerous, old-school authority. Luis Guzman voiced Ricardo Diaz with explosive energy, a man who could be charming one moment and terrifying the next. Danny Trejo brought authentic fire to Umberto Robina. Gary Busey was perfectly cast as the wild, one-armed arms dealer Phil Cassidy. Lee Majors gave Mitch Baker, the biker leader, a gravelly, no-nonsense presence that felt completely believable. Burt Reynolds played Avery Carrington, the smooth real estate developer whose jobs always came with a twist. Dennis Hopper portrayed Steve Scott, the eccentric adult film director, with wonderful eccentric energy, a playful parody of a certain type of Hollywood filmmaker. Robert Davi voiced Colonel Juan Garcia Cortez with quiet authority. Fairuza Balk played his daughter Mercedes. Philip Michael Thomas, famous from Miami Vice, voiced Lance Vance. Danny Dyer played the sleazy music manager Kent Paul, and there were many more talented performers filling out the world with small roles, radio DJs, and pedestrian voices. The effect of all this talent working together was remarkable. Conversations felt like scenes from a movie. The world felt populated by real people with histories and personalities. When you were driving around and a random character said something memorable on the street or on the radio, it added another layer of life to the city. This wasn't just voice acting for a game. This was a full ensemble cast, treating the material with the same seriousness they would bring to a film. That respect for the project is one of the reasons the performances have aged so well. People still talk about specific lines and deliveries decades later. Let yourself enjoy the thought of all of these legendary actors gathered together in a recording studio in 2002, bringing this wild, stylish world to life, one scene at a time. If Vice City has a heartbeat, it lives in the radio. There are 9 stations in total, and together they contain over 100 licensed songs, plus hours of original talk radio content. The music isn't just something playing in the background. It is part of the soul of the city. Drive along the beach with Flash FM and you might hear Hall & Oates, Laura Branigan, or Wang Chung. The melodies are smooth, catchy, and instantly transport you to the era. Switch over to Wave 103 and you're in new wave and synth territory. Atmospheric, cool, and perfect for nighttime drives. V-Rock delivers pure glam metal and hair metal energy, complete with in-game band Love Fist, whose over-the-top songs and personalities are a loving parody of the era's excess. Fever 105 brings warm soul, funk, and R&B that feels perfect for cruising through the neighborhood. Emotion 98.3 leans into power ballads and soft rock, and even includes the legendary Crockett's theme from the TV show Miami Vice, a beautiful atmospheric instrumental that makes the whole city feel more cinematic. Wildstyle Pirate Radio drops classic hip-hop. Radio Espantoso offers Latin music that adds another authentic layer to the cultural mix. Then, there are the talk stations, K-Chat and VCPR. These are absolute treasures. They feature eccentric hosts, absurd commercials, satirical call-in shows, and political commentary that somehow manages to be both funny and strangely insightful. The writing and performances on these stations alone would be enough to fill an entire comedy album. Many players say they spent hours just driving around listening to the radio without even doing missions. The developers licensed real songs from the 1980s and also created original content that perfectly matched the tone. The result is that the radio feels alive. It reacts to the time of day in subtle ways. It gives you a constant stream of personality and nostalgia. It turns every drive into a little story. Imagine you're in the car right now. The windows are down. A song you love, or a song you're discovering for the first time, is playing. The city lights are starting to blur past. You feel completely relaxed. This is what the radio in Vice City does better than almost any other game before or since. Beyond the story and the atmosphere, Vice City gave players something very special: freedom. After the events of the early story, you can go almost anywhere and do almost anything. You can steal cars, boats, or even helicopters. You can cause chaos if you want to, or you can simply cruise around enjoying the world. The wanted level system responds intelligently. At lower levels, you might just get regular police, but at higher levels, you start seeing more aggressive responses, including those stylish undercover officers in fast cars. One of the most satisfying systems is the property empire. You can buy various businesses across the city: a taxi company, a strip club, a film studio, a cabaret, and others. Each one generates passive income over time. You can also do special missions for these businesses to increase their value. It creates a wonderful feeling of progression. You're not just surviving anymore, you're building something. The game also has a huge number of side activities. You can do vigilante missions, paramedic runs, firefighter jobs, or taxi fares. There are 100 hidden packages scattered across the map. Charming little green tiki-style statues that reward you with new weapons and armor as you collect more of them. There are unique stunt jumps to find and master. There are rampage missions that test your combat skills in creative ways. The vehicles feel great to drive. The improved motorcycle physics, the variety of cars, from sleek sports models to heavy trucks, the boats, the planes, it all adds to the sense that this is a real place you can explore however you like. What makes it special for many players is the balance between structure and freedom. You can follow the main story at your own pace, or you can ignore it for hours and just live in the city. Both ways of playing are valid and enjoyable. Picture yourself finishing a long mission, then deciding to just drive. No objective, no timer. Just you, the car, the radio, and the beautiful, dangerous, glamorous city stretching out in every direction. Vice City is full of hidden delights for anyone willing to slow down and explore. There are 100 hidden packages, those small green and gold statues scattered in clever and sometimes difficult to reach spots. Collecting them in groups of 10 rewards you with increasingly powerful weapons and armor. After a certain point in the story, one of these packages even appears broken, revealing white powder inside, a very specific and cool reference to a famous episode of the TV show Miami Vice. Explorers have found a literal Easter egg room hidden behind a window in downtown. There's a submarine resting quietly on the seabed north of the mall. 2 unfortunate characters wearing cement shoes can be found at the bottom of the sea near Leaf Link. The Malibu Club has performers dressed exactly like the village people. Apartment 3C in Ocean Beach contains a very deliberate and atmospheric reference to a famous movie scene involving a bathroom and a chainsaw. The game is full of smaller touches too. Rockstar logos appear in surprising places, shaped into swimming pools, carved into gravestones, spray painted in sewers, and even on airplane tail fins. The loading screen itself is a loving tribute to the Commodore 64, complete with a chip-tune version of the classic GTA theme music. There are movie references scattered throughout. A mission involving a bomb in a limousine that echoes a famous action film, a shootout scene that pays homage to another classic crime movie, fake moon landing props at the film studio, and countless smaller nods that reward players who know their 80s cinema. These secrets aren't just for completionists. They're little gifts from the developers to anyone who takes the time to look around. In a game famous for its action and story, some of the most memorable moments come from quiet discovery. Finding something unexpected and realizing the world is even richer than you thought. Take your time with these. There's no pressure to find everything. Just knowing they exist makes the city feel more alive and more worth exploring at your own pace. Vice City sold more than 17.5 million copies across platforms. It was the fastest-selling game of its time when it launched and remains one of the most beloved and frequently praised entries in the entire Grand Theft Auto series. Critics and players celebrated the music, the voice acting, the living world, and the way it made you feel like you were inside a stylish 1980s crime film. It helped define what open-world games could be and raised expectations for atmosphere, storytelling, and freedom. It influenced countless players' taste in music. It introduced, or reintroduced, entire generations to 80s songs they still love today. It showed that a video game could have genuine cinematic ambition while still being playful and fun, and it left behind a legacy that continues. When people talk about the golden age of GTA, Vice City almost always comes up near the top of the list. Its blend of nostalgia, satire, freedom, and style has rarely been matched. Even now, with new games on the horizon that will revisit similar settings, Vice City remains special because it was the first to do so many things so well. It captured lightning in a bottle. As you listen to this, you're part of that legacy. Every person who still fires up the game, or listens to its soundtrack, or simply remembers the feeling of driving through those neon streets at night is keeping that magic alive. You've traveled a long way together through Vice City. You've seen how it was built in just 9 months of intense creativity. We've walked its beaches and downtown streets. We've followed Tommy's rise. We've met the legendary voices who brought the world to life. We've listened to its incredible radio. We've discovered some of its hidden secrets. And we've remembered why it still matters all these years later. There's nothing left to do now except relax even more deeply. Picture the city one last time. The neon signs humming softly, the ocean dark and calm, a single car driving slowly along the beachfront with its radio playing quietly. Tommy standing on his balcony, looking out over everything he built. Everything is peaceful now. The day is done. You don't need to hold on to any of the facts. They've already done their work. They've carried you here to this calm, glowing place inside your mind. Whenever you're ready, let yourself drift a little further. The waves are still moving gently outside. The palm trees are still swaying in the warm breeze. The neon lights keep glowing, soft and constant, long after the story ends. Thank you for spending this full hour with me in Vice City. sleep well. Sweet dreams in the city of neon and ocean light. If you're still here with me, welcome back into the warm night air of Vice City. You don't need to open your eyes. Just let your breathing stay slow and easy. We've already walked the beaches, met the voices, heard the music, and watched Tommy rise. Now we can go deeper. We can stay after most people have gone to sleep. We can feel what the city is like when the crowds thin out and the neon does all the talking. There's still so much more to notice when you're not in a hurry. The way the air changes temperature when you drive from the beach into downtown. The different rhythm of the waves depending on which part of the coast you're on. The way a single song on the radio can suddenly make an entire district feel like it was built just for that moment. So take one more slow breath in and let it go. We're going to spend this next hour simply staying here. No rushing. No repeating what we've already felt. Just sinking a little further into the details, the atmosphere, and the quiet magic that makes Vice City keep calling people back decades later. Vice City was never trying to be a perfect documentary of Miami. It was trying to capture a very specific feeling that existed in that city during the mid-1980s. A feeling of glamour and danger existing side by side under the same bright sun. The developers spent time in Miami. They looked at the architecture, the light on the water, the way certain neighborhoods felt at different times of day. But they also absorbed the cultural stories that were in the air during that era. Stories of sudden wealth and sudden violence. Stories of people arriving with nothing and building empires. Stories of fast boats, fast cars, and music that never seemed to stop. Two pieces of fiction loomed especially large in the creative DNA of the game. One was a 1983 film about a Cuban immigrant who arrives in Miami with almost nothing and rises through the cocaine trade with explosive ambition. The other was a stylish television show about undercover detectives who drove Ferraris, wore pastel jackets, and operated in a world of neon and synth music. Vice City took the visual language of that television show, the colors, the cars, the cool detachment, and mixed it with the dramatic rise and fall energy of the film. Then it filtered both through the real historical backdrop of 1980s Miami, a city that had become a major gateway for international trade, both legal and otherwise. A place where old money and new money, tourists and locals, dreamers and hustlers all shared the same sidewalks and the same ocean views. The result is a fantasy version of that time. Brighter, more colorful, more forgiving in some ways, and more dangerous in others. But the emotional truth underneath, the mix of opportunity and tension, beauty and risk, feels very real. Imagine standing on the beach at 2 a.m. The clubs are still glowing. The ocean is black and endless. Somewhere far out on the water, you can almost hear the low rumble of a powerful boat engine. That mixture of beauty and mystery is exactly what the developers were chasing. Part of what makes the city feel so alive is the incredible variety of ways you can move through it. There are sleek sports cars that hug the road like they were made for these wide boulevards. The white cheetah, with its long nose and aggressive stamp, feels like pure 1980s speed and status. There are heavy, muscular cars that feel unstoppable. Motorcycles that lean into corners with a satisfying weight. Boats that skim across the water when you want to escape the streets entirely. Even helicopters and small planes for when you decide the sky is the better option. Each vehicle has its own personality. Some feel luxurious and precise. Others feel raw and powerful. Learning which car or bike feels right for which part of the city becomes part of the pleasure. A fast sports car on the beachfront strip at night feels completely different from the same car on a narrow industrial road in the rain. The boats especially change how you experience the map. Suddenly, the coastlines and islands aren't just scenery. They become places you can approach from the water, seeing the city skyline from a completely new angle. The freedom to switch between land, sea, and air without loading screens makes Vice City feel bigger and more connected than its actual size. Picture yourself choosing a car for a late-night drive with no destination. Maybe something low and powerful that growls when you press the accelerator. The windows are down. The radio is playing something smooth. The city lights streak past in long, colorful lines. For a little while, the only thing that matters is the road ahead and the feeling of movement. Beyond the vehicles, the game gives you a wide range of tools that change how you interact with the world. Some are practical, some are theatrical. All of them contribute to that feeling of capability that makes open-world games so satisfying. There are precise weapons for careful work and loud, powerful options for when you want the whole block to know you've arrived. There are tools for close-up situations and others for reaching across distances. One particular chainsaw has become legendary among players, not just for what it does, but for where you can find it and the very specific atmosphere of the location it's hidden in. What matters more than any individual tool is how they make you feel while using them. The game never forces you into one style of play. You can be precise and quiet or loud and chaotic. You can plan or you can improvise. The systems support both approaches and everything in between. This variety feeds directly into the central fantasy of Vice City. The idea that you can arrive with nothing and, through skill, boldness, and a little luck, become someone who shapes the city rather than someone the city shapes. Every new vehicle you master and every new capability you unlock adds to that growing sense of ownership. Let yourself enjoy that feeling for a moment, the quiet confidence of knowing you can go anywhere and handle whatever comes up. That sense of personal power is one of the most comforting parts of the entire experience. The missions in Vice City are carefully crafted, little stories that almost always give you room to breathe and make your own choices. Some missions are about careful planning and timing. Others are about high-speed movement and quick decisions. Some ask you to protect someone, others ask you to take something back. Many of them involve multiple stages that unfold across different parts of the city, so you get to see how the different neighborhoods connect. What makes them special is the way they blend cinematic moments with genuine freedom. You might have a dramatic conversation or a set-piece sequence, but you're almost never forced into a single path. If you want to approach a situation creatively or take a scenic route between objectives, the game usually lets you. This approach to mission design creates a rhythm that feels very natural. There are moments of intensity, followed by moments where you can simply drive and listen to the radio while the next part of the story settles in your mind. That breathing room is part of what makes the game feel relaxing, even when things are happening on screen. Imagine finishing one of these self-contained stories, then deciding not to start the next one right away. Instead, you just drive. The mission is complete. The city is still there. The radio is still playing. For a little while, you exist in that pleasant, in-between space where the story and the freedom overlap perfectly. It's easy to forget now how ambitious Vice City was for the hardware it ran on. The PlayStation 2 had limits, and the team pushed right up against them in ways that still impress people who understand the technical side. They managed impressive draw distances for the time, so you could see across large sections of the city instead of everything popping in right in front of you. They filled the streets with a surprising number of unique pedestrians who moved with their own little routine. The radio station streamed music and dialogue without constant loading interruptions. The physics of cars and motorcycles felt responsive and weighty. All of this was done with clever engineering and careful prioritization. The team knew which details would make the biggest difference to the feeling of being in a real place. They focused on the things players would notice while driving or walking. The lighting, the variety of buildings, the way sound changed as you moved through different environments. When you play the game today on modern hardware through re-releases or emulation, some of those technical achievements become even more impressive in hindsight. They were working with serious constraints and still created something that felt expansive and alive. That technical ambition is part of why the world still holds up. The city doesn't feel empty or repetitive because the developers fought hard to fill it with personality within the limits they had. We've already felt how important the music is, but the talk radio stations in Vice City are something else entirely. A masterclass in world building that most players only fully appreciate after many hours. K-Chat and VCPR are filled with fictional hosts, callers, commercials, and public service announcements that are often hilarious, sometimes sharp, and always completely in character with the world. They talk about local politics, celebrities, products, and scandals as if Vice City were a real place with its own media ecosystem. The beauty of this approach is that it makes the city feel lived in, even when you're not interacting with it directly. While you're driving between missions, these stations are running their own little shows in the background. You catch fragments of conversations, you hear ads for businesses you can actually visit, you get a sense of the city's personality through the way its fictional residents talk about it. This kind of ambient storytelling was relatively rare in games at the time. Most games focused on what happened when the player was actively doing something. Vice City understood that what happens when the player is just existing in the space matters just as much. The talk radio turns every drive into a little window into the larger world. Imagine you're on a long, quiet drive with no mission active. The talk radio host is in the middle of interviewing some eccentric local figure. The conversation is absurd and entertaining. You're not trying to get anywhere in particular. You're just sharing the car with these fictional voices while the city slides past your windows. That feeling is pure Vice City. Vice. Beyond the more obvious secrets, Vice City contains many smaller touches that show how much care went into every corner of the map. There was once planned to be an entire additional area inspired by the mangrove swamps and wetlands of southern Florida, a place called Gator Keys in some early planning. It was ultimately cut, but traces of that idea remain in the game's atmosphere and in certain removed dialogue about swampy development projects. Some players have discovered that certain mission instructions given by one character are almost word-for-word echoes of dialogue from the previous game in the series. A quiet little wink between the two titles. There are hidden billboards and posters that reference real events or figures from the era in very subtle ways. There are specific locations where the developers placed objects or graffiti that only makes sense if you've been paying close attention to the story and the world. One particularly clever trick involves a certain white car that can be made bulletproof through a very specific sequence of events during one mission. It requires failing the mission in a particular way at a particular moment, the kind of secret that rewards experimentation and curiosity. These layers exist because the team clearly loved the world they were building. They didn't just create a map and fill it with missions. They kept adding small, personal touches that make exploration feel rewarding, even after you've seen most of the major sites. Knowing these details exist makes every drive feel a little more special. You start wondering what else might be hidden in plain sight. One of the most powerful things Vice City offers is the ability to do almost nothing and still feel completely content. You can spend an entire session just driving from one end of the map to the other, listening to whatever station feels right for the time of day. You can park on a hill overlooking the water and watch the city lights come on as evening falls. You can find a quiet stretch of beach and listen to the waves while a distant radio plays. You can buy properties, improve them, and then simply enjoy the passive income rolling in while you cruise. This freedom to exist in the space without constant pressure is part of what makes the game feel comforting to return to years later. The city doesn't demand anything from you. It's happy to just be there, glowing and moving, while you move through it at whatever speed feels good. Many people who played it when it first came out still load it up now, when they want to feel a very specific kind of relaxed nostalgia. The combination of the music, the visuals, the sense of freedom, and the lack of modern game pressure creates something that's genuinely soothing for a lot of players. You don't have to be accomplishing anything. You don't have to be efficient. You can just be in Vice City for a while. Vice City sits in a very special spot in the larger history of these games. It took the foundation of what came before and expanded it dramatically in atmosphere, storytelling, and freedom. It showed what was possible when you gave players a living, breathing city with its own personality and let them loose inside it. Later entries in the series would build on what Vice City started: bigger maps and deeper stories. But something about the focused, stylish, slightly nostalgic feeling of this particular city has never been fully replaced. It occupies its own lane. And now, with new chapters on the horizon that will once again visit a version of the same sun-drenched, neon-lit world, there's a pleasant sense of the circle continuing. The version we have here remains the one that first captured that specific magic. For those of us who love it, it's comforting to know that this particular flavor of Vice City, the 1986 version, with its particular cars, its particular music, its particular mood, is preserved and still waiting whenever we want to return. We've gone quite deep together now. We've felt the real cultural currents that shaped the fantasy. We've appreciated the machines and the tools. We've respected the craft that went into the missions and the technology. We've noticed the quiet genius of the talk radio and the small love letters hidden in the map. And we've remembered that sometimes the best way to experience this place is to simply exist inside it with no goal at all. There's nothing left to do except let yourself sink a little deeper into that feeling. Picture the city at its quietest hour. Most of the clubs have closed. The streets are mostly empty except for the occasional car gliding past with its headlights cutting through the dark. The ocean is still moving. The neon signs are still glowing, though some of them are flickering now. A single radio somewhere is still playing a song that ended 20 minutes ago, but nobody has bothered to turn it off. Tommy is somewhere in his mansion, the lights mostly off, the city spread out below like a kingdom. He built one careful decision at a time. Everything is calm. Everything is still here. You don't need to hold on to any of this. Just let it wash over you like warm night air coming in through an open window. Whenever you're ready, let your breathing slow even more. Let your thoughts become softer and more distant. The city will keep glowing whether you're watching it or not. The waves will keep moving. The neon will keep humming its quiet song. Thank you for staying with me for this full second hour. Sleep well. Stay as long as you like in the warm, neon-lit dark of Vice City. One of the most remarkable things about Vice City is how much it communicates without ever using words or music. Every district has its own ambient soundscape that changes depending on where you are and what time it is. Stand on the beach and you hear the constant, rhythmic wash of waves mixed with distant seagulls and the low murmur of conversation from people walking the promenade. Move into downtown and the sound shifts to tires on pavement, the occasional horn, the hum of air conditioning units on tall buildings, and the muffled thump of music from clubs several blocks away. Drive into the more industrial or quieter residential areas and the sound becomes sparser. Maybe just wind moving through palm trees, the distant drone of a plane, or the low idle of a car parked somewhere nearby. These layers were carefully designed so the city never feels silent, but it also never feels the same from one place to the next. Even the way sound travels changes. When you're high up on a hill or in a tall building, the city below sounds softer and more distant, like it's happening in another world. When you're down in the streets, everything feels closer and more immediate. This invisible soundtrack does something wonderful. It makes the world feel alive even when nothing dramatic is happening. You can turn off the radio completely and still feel like you're inside a living place. The sound design does a huge amount of the work in making Vice City feel like more than just a video game map. Imagine you're standing somewhere quiet right now. Close your eyes and simply listen to whatever ambient sounds exist in the game at that moment. No music, no dialogue. Just the city breathing around you. That alone can be surprisingly calming. Vice City doesn't just look different at different times. It feels different. During the bright, hot hours of the day, the city has an energetic, almost optimistic quality. The sunlight makes the pastel buildings glow. The beaches feel lively. Driving feels fast and free. There's a sense that anything could happen and it would probably be exciting. As evening approaches, the mood shifts. The same streets that felt bright and open now feel more intimate. Neon signs begin to stand out against the deepening sky. The radio seems to carry a little more emotion. People move a little slower. There's a romantic, slightly mysterious feeling that settles over everything. At night, the city transforms again. The lights become the main characters. Reflections stretch across wet-looking streets, even when it hasn't rained. Distant sirens or boat engines feel more meaningful. Certain areas that felt safe during the day now carry a different kind of tension. Not necessarily dangerous, but charged with possibility. Weather adds another layer. A sudden rainstorm turns the city into something moody and cinematic. Headlights and neon reflect off the wet roads in long, beautiful streaks. The sound of tires on wet pavement becomes its own kind of music. A clear, starry night makes everything feel sharper and more peaceful at the same time. The game never forces these changes on you in an obvious way. They simply exist, waiting for you to notice them. Many players find that their favorite way to experience Vice City is to simply drive around at different times of day and notice how their own mood shifts along with the city. Picture yourself driving right now as the sun is going down. The sky is turning deep orange and purple. The first neon signs are flickering on. The temperature feels like it's dropping just a little. There's no destination. You're just watching the city change around you. For all its stylishness and occasional intensity, Vice City is also a very funny game, in quiet, characterful ways. The humor doesn't usually come from big, obvious jokes. It comes from the way characters talk to each other, the ridiculous things you sometimes overhear on the street, the absurd billboards and advertisements, and the way the world gently pokes fun at its own over-the-top 1980 setting. There's warmth in that humor. It never feels mean-spirited. It feels like the game is in on the joke with you. A pedestrian might say something completely unexpected as you walk past. A radio commercial might be so over the top that it makes you smile even on your 10th listen. A mission might take a sudden, ridiculous turn that feels completely in keeping with the world's personality. This humor does important emotional work. It keeps the city from feeling too heavy or self-serious. It reminds you that while there are high stakes and dramatic moments, this is still a playful, stylish fantasy. The laughter and the warmth make the world feel more human and more inviting. Many players return to Vice City years later, not just for the story or the freedom, but because spending time in this world simply feels good. The humor is a big part of that feeling. It's the game's way of saying, we know this is a bit much, and we're having fun with it too. Let yourself smile at the thought of some of those small, silly moments you've encountered while exploring. They're part of what makes the city feel alive and lovable rather than just impressive. At its heart, Vice City offers a very particular fantasy that goes beyond just causing chaos or completing missions. It offers the fantasy of arriving somewhere new and gradually becoming someone who belongs there. You start with almost nothing. No reputation, no resources, no connection. Over time, through your actions and choices, you build relationships, acquire property, gain respect or fear, and eventually shape parts of the city itself. That progression from outsider to someone with real presence is deeply satisfying for a lot of people. It's not just about money or power in a cold sense. It's about finding your place, about walking into a club and having people know who you are, about driving through a neighborhood and feeling like it's yours in some small way, about looking out from a high balcony and recognizing the skyline as something you've helped shape. This fantasy is delivered with a light touch. The game never lectures you about it. It simply creates the systems and the world that let you feel that growth naturally. And because the city itself is so stylish and attractive, becoming someone important inside it feels genuinely desirable. Imagine standing in a place you've claimed as your own. Maybe a quiet office, maybe the balcony of a large house, maybe just a favorite parking spot overlooking the water. You didn't have any of this when you first arrived. Now it's part of your story. That feeling of earned belonging is one of the most quietly powerful things the game offers. Vice City has a wonderful way of making you feel competent without ever making you feel overpowered in a silly way. The controls are responsive enough that you can develop real skill at driving, shooting, and navigating. The missions are challenging enough that completing them feels like an achievement, but rarely so difficult that they become frustrating. The world gives you tools and information, then mostly steps back and lets you use them however you want. This creates a very pleasant feeling of personal capability. When you successfully pull off a difficult drive or complete a complex mission on your own terms, there's a quiet satisfaction that stays with you. When you discover a clever shortcut or a new way to approach a situation, the game doesn't congratulate you with a big notification. It simply lets you enjoy the feeling of having figured something out. That respect for the player's intelligence and growing skill is part of what makes the experience feel good, even years later. The game trusts you to get better. It doesn't hold your hand forever, but it also doesn't throw you into the deep end without any support. There's something genuinely relaxing about spending time in a world that treats you as capable. It's the opposite of many modern experiences that constantly tell you what to do or how well you're doing. Vice City simply creates the conditions for you to feel competent, then lets you enjoy that feeling. Even though we've already looked at the overall map, it's worth slowing down and feeling how different each area truly is in atmosphere. Ocean Beach and the southern coastal areas have a bright, tourist-friendly energy during the day and a more glamorous, slightly decadent feeling at night. The buildings are colorful. The streets feel open. There's always a sense that people are here to have a good time. Downtown feels more serious and vertical. The buildings are taller. The streets feel more like corridors. There's a sense of business being done. Sometimes legitimate, sometimes not. At night, it can feel almost cinematic in its emptiness and neon glow. Little Haiti and Little Havana have their own strong cultural identities and rhythms. The colors are different. The music and conversations you overhear feel distinct. These areas have a vibrant, lived-in quality that makes them feel like real communities rather than just game spaces. Starfish Island and the wealthier residential areas feel quiet, private, and slightly removed from everything else. The houses are larger, the streets are wider and cleaner. There's a sense of money and power that exists at a distance from the more chaotic parts of the city. Each of these places has its own tempo, its own color palette, its own soundtrack of ambient sounds. Learning to recognize and appreciate these differences is part of what makes exploration rewarding. The city isn't just one big map, it's many small worlds connected together. One of the most beautiful things about Vice City is how good it feels to come back to it after a long time away. On a first playthrough, everything is new and exciting. On later playthroughs, you start noticing details you missed the first time. A piece of dialogue you didn't catch, a billboard you never read, a clever route between two locations. a small environmental story playing out in the background. The music hits differently when you already know the songs. The driving feels more relaxed because you're not trying to learn the map anymore. You can focus on the feeling of movement and the view instead of navigation. Certain locations that felt ordinary the first time around now carry memories from your previous time in the city. This is the gift of well-made games that age gracefully. They become comfortable places you can return to when you want something familiar but still rich. Vice City has this quality in abundance. The core fantasy, the music, the visual style, and the freedom all remain satisfying no matter how many years have passed since you first arrived. Imagine loading up the game after not playing it for a long time. The title screen appears. You start a new game or load an old save. Within minutes, you're back in that familiar, warm air, hearing those familiar sounds and feeling that familiar sense of possibility. It's like visiting an old friend who hasn't changed in all the ways that matter. 58 minutes to 1 hour 5 minutes. The passage of time and what remains. More than 20 years have passed since Vice City first appeared. The real world has changed in countless ways. Technology has moved forward dramatically. Many games from that era feel dated or difficult to return to. Yet Vice City still feels special to the people who love it. The things that made it wonderful in 2002, the atmosphere, the music, the sense of freedom, the stylish world, have not diminished. If anything, they stand out even more clearly now because so few games try to capture that same focused cinematic feeling. The game has become a kind of time capsule that still works as a living experience. You can step into 1986 Vice City whenever you want, and it will feel just as vibrant as it did on release. That's a rare kind of achievement. As we near the end of our time together, it's nice to remember that some creations don't lose their power just because time moves on. They simply wait, glowing softly until someone decides to return. We've been together for 3 full hours now. We've felt the making of the world, its roots in real culture, its machines and tools, its stories and humor, its changing moods, its neighborhoods, its ability to make you feel capable and at home. We've remembered why people still return to it decades later. There's nothing left to explore, nothing left to understand. All that remains is to let yourself rest inside the feeling we've built together. Picture the city one last time, but even more gently than before. It's very late now. Most of the lights in the tall buildings have gone dark. A few neon signs are still glowing, pink, blue, and green against the black sky. The ocean is moving slowly against the shore with a sound like slow breathing. A single car is driving along the beachfront road with its headlights on low. The driver isn't in any hurry. They're just moved.